Welcome to our food segment. Today we'll be showing you how to make your own marshmallows. The ingredients needed for our recipe today are laid out here.
You will need 3 packets of gelatin, 1 cup of ice cold water, a cup and a half of granulated sugar, 1 cup of corn syrup, and a quarter teaspoon of kosher salt. You'll also need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, a quarter cup of confectioner's sugar, a quarter cup of cornstarch, and nonstick spray.
You'll also need 1 big mixing bowl, a whisk, 1 saucepan, a metal 9x13 pan, a spatula, aluminum foil, and a pizza wheel.
First we start combining 3 envelopes worth of unflavored gelatin with 1/2 cup of water in the mixing bowl and just let it sit.
Because gelatin doesn't like to dissolve in hot liquid, it must first be soaked in cold liquid. This is what we call blooming.
So we let that sit for a while. We will make the syrup for the marshmallows.
We will be using an aluminum saucepan for this because it's really good at cooking surface. Aluminum is known as one of the best conductors of heat, which means that it has high thermal conductivity. This means that the pan is able to evenly transfer heat throughout it very effectively and quickly.
We will take the other 1/2 cup of ice cold water into the saucepan. With the 1.5 cups of sugar. With 1 cup of corn syrup. With a 1/4 tablespoon of kosher salt. Okay. And combine them all in the saucepan. We put it onto the heat source at medium-high heat. And make sure to cover the pan for 3 to 4 minutes until the sugar starts to dissolve.
In the pan right now, what's happening is that the heat from the heat source is being transferred through to the saucepan through the process called conduction. Then as the saucepan evens out the heat through itself, it then transfers the heat to the liquid inside through convection, which then uses convection to heat the sugar molecules inside. Because saucepans have good thermal conductivity, the handle will get hot, so please be careful.
As the sugar molecules are being heated in the small saucepan, the molecules collide with each other more and more, which gives a chain reaction of heat transfers, which eventually lead to the sugar molecules spreading apart and moving around more and more, which is the dissolving of the sugar into the water. This is also another way of saying the solid sugar changes its state of matter to a liquid.
After the 3 minutes have passed, make sure to take the top off the saucepan and continue to let it sit in the heat. Because syrups of different concentrations react differently when added into cold water, you'll make sure to allow the syrup to heat until it reaches about 240 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about another 7 to 8 minutes.
As the mixture is being heated, the water is exiting the pan through evaporation. As the water leaves the pan, the mixture becomes more concentrated and becomes thicker. And we have to maintain the temperature around 240 degrees to increase the boiling point.
The reason for our use of corn syrup in the solution is because it can prevent sucrose molecules from growing together and forming big crystals. Corn syrup prevents this from happening because it is not sucrose, so it cannot grow crystals with the sugar.
After the 7 to 8 minutes have passed, then make sure to cut the heat right away and take it straight away from the gelatin and water solution. If you take a look at the gelatin, it is thoroughly bloomed so you can start mixing it with a wire whisk, which is known to be used for mixing ingredients like we are now. As you mix the solution, slowly add the syrup into the side of the bowl.
Okay. Yes.
You can just set it down.
The most important thing to do at this point is, in order to turn this into a marshmallow mixture, we need to get as much air into this as possible. So once all the syrup is in, you can start mixing at a much faster rate for another 12 to 15 minutes in order to get as much air into the solution.
When your mixture is about 1 minute from being done, you can add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract.
Before finishing up the mixture, make sure to get the pan ready for laying out the sticky mixture. We will use a basic 9x13 metal pan because they provide more of a sharp edge rather than the rounded glass pans, and spray it with a non-stick spray. We will then put 1/4 cup of confectioner sugar into the mixture and 1/4 cup of cornstarch dust into the mixture. Then we will take the aluminum foil and wrap the top of the pan and shake it up to coat all the sides of the pan.
After you're done mixing, take an oiled spatula or spray it with nonstick spray, and spread it into the pan as far as you can to avoid the mixture from hardening. Now we'll be using a rubber spatula because it helps protect the surface of our nonstick pan and is known to be a good scraper of mixtures for bowls. Rubber spatulas are also very good at smoothing batter into the pan, which is exactly what we want to do now. After you're done with that, you can sprinkle the remaining confectioner's sugar and cornstarch onto the pan and let it sit overnight or for 4 hours.
The hardened marshmallows should come right out of the pan. You can now cut the marshmallows using the pizza cutter. The reason we're using a pizza cutter instead of a knife is because it's much easier to use to cut sticky substances. If there are still some sticky edges, you can dust on a little more sugar. And to store these marshmallows, you can place them in gallon-sized Ziploc bags and store them in your pantry, or simply enjoy them in your desserts.